everyone, welcome back. Today is October 7th and today will mark the day of our first garden tours for this season's Fall 2020 garden. I'm also going to include a hyperlapse video of our children and I putting in seeds and all the plants into our garden. So I took the time to document that, hoping to condense it to see all of our hard work that we've put into this garden thus far. So I hope you guys stick around for that. I'll also be taking you into our food forest and giving you some highlights of some of our fruit trees that have been producing really well during this time. And I'll give you a sneak peek of our pumpkin patch that has been doing really well and maybe even show you how I'm using them in the house. So I also had some other exciting news that I wanted to share with you. Recently I partnered with Baker Creek Seed Company and I'll be offering my first giveaway ever. So at the end of this video, I'll be sharing with you how you can register to win, and what we're giving away is their heirloom seed collection, which includes over 25 seed packets, a garden planter, and these seeds will last 4 to 10 years. So that's a great item that you can keep on hand in case you need it down the road or use it right away. So stick around. I hope you guys enjoy this video. So if this is your first time joining me on a garden tour, I'm going to show you 3 separate gardens here that we have in our backyard. We first have a small garden. This is where my garden actually started, with just a few plants, and then I asked my husband for more space, which then we created 2 different areas on this side and one on the other. So over here this year we have some butter crunch and romaine lettuce here in this bed. This bed here doesn't get a whole lot of sun, so that's where I dedicate items that would not need a whole lot of sun. Back here we are trying bok choy for the first time, so I'm super excited about that. And we have some basil and cilantro that I just direct sowed into the ground, so it's kind of a mess over there. I've got to thin it out. If you want to know what seed brands and seed varieties that I started this year, you can go back to the original video, which is my fall gardening guide and all the seeds that I planted this year. Over here I direct sowed some radishes and some carrots. These are actually container variety carrots. They're shorter carrots, so I thought this bed would be great for that particular type of carrot because radishes are very, very quick harvest, and so will these carrots compared to my longer carrots that we have in the rest of the garden. This was kind of a last minute planting here. I had some rattlesnake beans that I direct sowed there. They are not yet coming up because we just put those in a few days ago. I also planted them back here behind this little plant stand to kind of cover this ugliness here on our wall. These strawberry plants are here from last season. I've lost a few just because I did not water that well this summer. I've since then put in some red romaine. This is one of the sets of instant gratification plants that we bought recently. And then I also had some extra romaine and lettuce left over that we didn't need in these beds, and I just kind of popped them in around there. So over in this bed I have some shooting star eggplants and peppers that I started in February, March time when the pandemic hit. I had a little extra space in the garden. I believe I had my radishes that I'd already harvested, and I wanted to go ahead and put some plants in to fill just in case we needed extra food. So those are still thriving, and you can see the purple flower here. They're so pretty. And here's one of the shooting star eggplants. I really need to get in here and take care of some ants. We've got some major ants that have been making homes out of our eggplants recently. Over in this bed, we typically have lots of different flower plants, and we plug in vegetable plants from time to time. But what I did recently is pull all of our flowers out of here except for the rose bushes, and I wanted to have more space this year to put some vegetable plants in, make it more of an edible scape next to our edible garden, but make this more of a design to look nice as you enter our walkway from the breezeway here. So I'm actually been waiting and going to the stores to find out what they have available for plants, because I'd like to pop in some colorful vegetables like purple cabbage and some onion bulbs and different things throughout here, and just kind of make it look nice. So most likely on my next video I'll show you what I've done there. I started some snow peas along here so they'll kind of vine up. I have plugged in some zinnias on the sides here. They're really tiny. You can see them right here. So here's the other side of the garden. Over here I have an entire double row of 1,000 head kale. Typically I only plant one row of vegetable plants along my drip line. This year I decided I wanted to double up on our food production, because over the years I just feel like I haven't had enough. I want to have enough to share with our friends and family, but I also want to maybe have some extras if I choose to sell it or give it to a local charity. I have enough to do that with. So I believe I have 36,000 head kale plants along this row. And as you can see, some of this running through my garden here. Last night, some little pest came in and stole my onion bulbs that I just recently plugged in and dug up a few of my plants. So I'm really disappointed. So we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do about that little pesky guy. He actually dug a hole over here in the fairy garden area, which I'll show you guys where he entered. We do have rabbit fence around this entire area. That is a very vulnerable spot over there because the fence is not dug into the ground. So I'm gonna have to take care of that. Along this row, we have some kohlrabi, and I've got them double planted again on both sides of my drip line. I pretty much have them all the way to here. I didn't do the entire row because I have started some sunflower seeds that are gonna go in this block here. At first I direct sowed some sunflower seeds and they did not come up. Not sure why. It's possible that we had a little pest that came and dug them up. So I since started some in some pots that we have down at the barn. I hope that those come up, because typically we start our sunflowers first before all of our other plants, because we do want those coming in so we can enjoy them while our plants are growing. Over here, if you guys can see all these little ruts in the soil that's around these plants, these are squash and zucchini. This is where I planted a ton of onion bulbs yesterday or the day before. And this little pest came in and stole all of my onion bulbs. Now it does look like I have a few left in there, but seriously, I have no clue what this is. I don't think it would be a rabbit, because the rabbit would have been chomping on my plants, which I haven't noticed any of my plants that have gone. So I'm curious to know if you guys have ever had something like this happen. I typically don't have a lot of problems with animals since we've put in our fence. It's possible that we had something come in through that entry, and here we have an entry as well. I think we're gonna have to start trapping some raccoons and relocating them. But I have some brandywine tomatoes. We've got 6 of them here. I did plant a couple more peppers. These are basically peppers that I had left over from the summer that I just didn't have the heart to pull. And we left those in, and I planted some pepper plants here. They're super tiny. They got dug up, unfortunately, but they weren't too damaged. Along this railing here, we have some peas. We have different variety of peas. Our kids absolutely love peas. So these are sugar snap. Down here, oh, look at that. Yep. Goodness, whatever this animal is, had a time in this garden. Look, it's actually dug around all of our blueberry plants. We actually have blueberry plants that surround our entire garden here. We recently trimmed them back. Oh, yeah, It looks like this little brat dug up some seeds that I recently put in. So we did have a bunch of sugar snow pod peas here. Some of them didn't germinate, so I recently put in some more seeds and they are gone. Oh, over here we have some yard beans that are doing really well. Over here we recently had some pumpkin plants. They didn't really produce that well in this garden area. I'm not sure why, but I'm gonna pull all these weeds underneath here and make this an edible scape as well. Over here we have some Swiss chard that I recently planted. It's very tiny in my old rusty wheelbarrow. Now real quick, I'm gonna show you guys where this animal has come in. Over here in the kids' play area. This is the vulnerable spot I was telling you about. A couple weeks ago I noticed that something had dug through here, but I didn't have a whole lot of damage in the garden. So I had some of these pokey plants. Oh look, yep, didn't really bother them, that I'd kind of stuck down in there. But whatever it was, it didn't faze them. Oh, I know I'm not the only one. That's mainly the biggest question I get asked is how do we deal with pests? It's just part of gardening. Unless you have a really good fence, it's really hard to keep animals out. So we have a decent fence, but there are openings. It definitely has helped. I use these Predator Guard flashing light pieces that are helpful at times. I need to check the batteries because whatever it is, it didn't faze them. Over here we have some cabbage. Oh, there's a butterfly over there. So here is one of the plants that we did buy at the store. Cabbage take a really long time to grow from seed, and I don't really ever have much luck with starting cabbage from seed. So I went ahead and purchased those, so we had some instant gratification in the garden. I have some more sugar snow peas along this side. And we have some cherry tomatoes down here. They're called Sweetie tomatoes. They're super small. And recently I started to notice some holes starting to appear on some of my plants, like here. You can see that. This is dazzling kale, blue dazzling kale. And I went through and sprayed all of my plants with BT. Look, here is another plant that is struggling. In this row, I planted some broccoli. And I only did one row of broccoli. I do have some extra broccoli in the back of my barn. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet, if I'm gonna plug it in the garden. Usually I start extra plants, more than what I need for my garden, to kind of share with friends, family, and also to kind of keep on the back burner in case I lose a plant to an animal or a pest or disease. I can plug it back into my garden and know that I'm not gonna have an empty space there. Now in this row we have blue dazzling kale. And recently I started to get some holes. Let's see if you can see that. Some holes in my plant. So recently one of my subscribers shared some information on what they use to keep worms at bay in their garden, and they use what's called BT. Recently I had some issues with worms taking over my beans, my pumpkins, and my loofahs, and I started using the BT on them, which literally rescued my plants. They started to kill off the worms, and my plants survived. So thankfully, I have great subscribers that are constantly feeding me with knowledge, and I appreciate all of you. So if you see something in my garden that I'm not doing, or if you see something that may be helpful, or something I'm doing wrong, please let me know. Don't keep it to yourself, because I love to share that with my subscribers. Anything, I'm always learning. That's the great thing about gardening is over this 6 years that I've been gardening, I have learned a lot. Now recently I put down some seed tape here, and I've never used seed tape before, but what it is, it's this material almost like a toilet paper, light paper, and you lay it down and then you fill it with soil on top of it, and the seeds are inside that paper. So I will have 2 rows of beets hopefully coming up here, but that pretty much sums up both sides of my garden this season. So out of all of our fruit trees that we have in our food forest, the only thing right now that is providing fruit are our cherry trees. As you can see here, we have all kinds of cherries that are developing, and we've been picking them for the last month. Our papaya trees right over here, I can show you. These are all trees that I started from seeds, the papayas. And we almost got one that's ready here. And then some of our mulberry trees are shooting off some fruit. And I'll go ahead and take you guys up to the front where our pumpkin patch is. So here is our front yard garden here. And we have done the method Garden of Eden, where we've taken mulch and piled it high on all of our rows. This area is really sandy. Typically what we've done in our backyard garden is we've dug ditches and added soil, and we amended the soils over each season with organic matter and different things. But what we've done up front, because it would be very expensive for this huge area to be dug up and put soil in, over time these wood chips are going to break down and turn into beautiful soil, which they already have started to break down. Yesterday I came out here and planted butternut squash in this row here, and as I was digging into the mulch I saw all kinds of beautiful earthworms, and I know that this is getting to the perfect consistency to start planting in. Down at the end here is our pumpkin patch. We've recently put in 2 rows of grapes here, which we will also put in another row on both sides, and eventually this one will become a grape row as well. Over on our last 3 rows, those are all mulberry trees, which I have started from clippings and propagated all those trees a little over a year ago. So they are now full-grown trees and producing fruit. So over here is our Seminole pumpkin patch, and as you can see, some pumpkins over there. These have done so well. I still have a lot of pumpkins that are producing these beautiful flowers that are still coming out. I planted these in May. Look at that. And since May, I've probably harvested 15 to 20 pumpkins, and I'll show you inside my pantry what they look like. I've got a few here, and if you guys want to go back to some of my old videos to see what these pumpkins looked at small stages, you can do that as well. But check out this guy. Aren't they beautiful? So recently I've been having some trouble with my leaves, getting some kind of mold on them. As you can see, this yellowing. I went down to my local ag extension and said, hey guys, I don't know what's going on. Can you help me out? What should I use? They told me to douse them with some neem oil, which I have done. And I recently went behind and doused them with BT as well, because we have all kinds of bugs on these plants. Now there's a ton of different things that you can use, but because I am gardening organic, or keeping this as organic as I possibly can, I chose to take the hard route and just stick with neem oil and BT. So it doesn't look as pretty as it should, but this is just part of organic gardening. So I wanted to show you guys my little basket of Seminole pumpkins. I've used some other of our pumpkins already in some dishes that we've made, and I'll show you some of the places I've put them in our house to decorate. And if you're wondering what's to the right of those are our loofahs that we recently harvested this year. So I've plugged one on top of our mantle right there, and I have one down here. I've also put some along this little table here that we've made from old Singer bases and reclaimed wood, and I couldn't help but add one into the kitchen. As we get some nicer size ones, I'll be putting them throughout the house as well. The good thing about these is they store for up to 9 months, so after we are done using these as decorations, we will put them back in the pantry and enjoy them.